Hola,
Good morning.
how are you?
Um, I'm alive. How are you?
Samesies, samesies. It's been a week
It
for
has.
sure.
Life just, gets really tough sometimes, that's all.
Yes, it does. It does. But
And then you're like, what the heck, man?
who asked for this shit? Not
Right.
me.
What's that Return to Sender song from like the 50s or something?
Oh yeah, exactly that. Return to sender. Return
Yeah.
to sender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm feeling right now. Can just go right back.
Yeah. I used to when I was a stroppy and emotional teenager, I used to say to my mum and dad, I never asked to be born. Like, you did this to me. I never asked to be born. Life's hard. And they'd be like, you have to do this, and then you have to do that. Like, you have to go to school, and then you're gonna have to get a job, and you're gonna have to run a house. And it's like, yeah, and why? Because you were selfish and had kids. I didn't ask to be here. It's been one of those weeks.
I know the other day I was getting Abraham ready for school and I was putting his shoes on him and he goes, "Oh, it's so tough being a kid." And I thought, God, to be five again. I was like, just wait till you're older, buddy.
Oh my god. Yeah, take me back to being. I'm trying to think where the sweet spot was. It was probably like 7 or 8. I think was probably the sweet spot.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, he's having a tough time at five, I guess, because he doesn't like his half days at school.
Oh my god.
I know, I'm like, you go for 3.5 hours, you'll be fine. And he gets an ice cream cone every day after school. I'm like,
Oh my god. Only 3.5 hours of school, and he gets ice cream.
yeah. And he's like, it's tough being a kid.
And he doesn't have to do his own laundry.
No.
So he doesn't understand the purgatory of sorting the washing by colour, washing it, drying it, folding it, putting it away, which is basically my life.
I hate doing
Grocery
laundry.
shopping, he doesn't have to do laundry, it's just a never ending story. Grocery shopping, paying for the effing groceries.
Yeah, which is like, I don't know how it is over there, but food is getting so expensive.
It's getting very expensive. Thank you, Tory government and Brexit. It like literally, it's just gone up again because I won't bore you with the politics, but basically, to do with Brexit, something has kicked in that should have kicked in a while ago, and so food just got more expensive. It's been getting exponentially more expensive, and it just got more expensive again as of last week or this week. I don't know. Last week and this week. It's only Monday, and it's already felt like a month. So, so I don't recall, but it's very recent. So yeah, I think that what you need to do for young Abraham is when you wake him up later today,
Hmm.
just give him like a list of the things that you have to do today and just say to him, you know what, I was thinking about that whole thing with your life being tough, and I agree. And so, therefore, I'm going to take one for the team for you. We'll swap. I'm going to go to school for 3.5 hours. I will look forward to you coming to pick me up with my ice cream.
Right.
And whilst I'm gone, here's the things that I'm going to need you to get on with, fella.
Yeah, I need you to do the laundry, clean the house, take care of the kitty,
Sort out your brother.
do the dishes, take care of your brother, all while being in miserable pain.
Yeah. Well, maybe don't wish that part on him.
No, not that part. I would never wish that on anybody.
I always say I want to come back as my cat, Willow.
You want to come back
Willow
as your
just has
cat?
like, yeah, she just has the best life. She just sleeps wherever she wants. It's generally either on my head or, funnily enough, on clean laundry. She does enjoy
Oh.
a nice fresh. If I get stuff off the air and sort of roughly fold it and put it in the laundry basket, ready to
Hmm.
properly fold it and put it away later, you can generally find her on top of said clean laundry, which is then obviously no longer clean. It's covered in cat hair.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then she just yells at me. You heard her yell at me just now before
Yeah.
we came on air to let me out. That's basically the soundtrack of my life. she just she just walks up behind me like all day,
That's
every day.
that's terrifying.
Yeah, and she's just and it's just like, oh, what do you want now? Oh, you want food? Oh, you want to cuddle? Oh, you want more food? Oh, you want to play now? Okay. And she just that's what she does. She just goes for a nap, wakes up, yells at somebody, gets given whatever it is that she wants, and then goes for another nap.
Okay.
So I want to come back as a very spoiled domestic cat, preferably with lesbian mothers, because we're a fussy bunch.
I think Jana Lee Ortiz on her After We Rap podcast said she wants to come back as a dog, like a luxury dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My issue with that would
So,
be that I would need to go and get my hair done if I was a luxury dog, and I hate getting
oh,
my hair done. Hate it. And also, I would have to go outside to pee and poop, which is undignified, and it's also cold.
you really have thought about this.
Yeah. How can you not have?
I don't know. I've never thought about it.
I sometimes think about that when I'm taking my dogs out for a poop. I feel it's undignified that I have to watch them do it and then pick it up. So to be the one that actually has to do it out in public, in front, in front of people, like it's very undignified.
Okay. I don't know. My mom's dog is pretty spoiled. I wouldn't mind coming back as her dog. We live on 3 acres. So she just
That
does her
sounds pretty
thing
nice.
wherever. I don't know when or where or how she does it. She just does it because she's outside all day long. So,
Well, I suppose if you've got nice weather, that's a
yeah.
perk.
Yep. It is a perk. Although right now we have a pretty bad storm, a rainstorm. And
Ooh,
it's
oh,
really
and you're in the desert, so that's like,
it's extremely being in the desert, it gets extremely windy, like really, really, really windy.
yeah,
And with the cold, and it's like 40 degrees right now. And with the cold, it's really bad.
yeah, that does sound deeply unpleasant.
Yeah.
How's your like infrastructure in the desert for dealing with heavy rain when it comes? Like, is anything likely to flood or
Yeah, it does. And like sometimes, like I don't think Abraham will have school tomorrow because we all
oh
live on these
crikey?
soft sand dirt roads.
Yeah,
And so they get really rutted, really bad rutted.
yeah.
So I probably guarantee he won't have school tomorrow and maybe Tuesday.
Gosh,
Yeah, it's happened before. I'm like, really? It rained. What? But the roads flood out, and yeah,
that sounds as bad as England.
it doesn't happen often, but it happens.
Blimey.
Yep.
Um, Talking of rotted, gnarled up roads, Tiffany's shaking her head at me.
Because it was not bad.
We're talking about 604 Demons.
Mm-hmm.
Original air date 27th of the 10th, 2022.
I
That's
watched it for
today's
like the
episode
18th
that we are
time yesterday.
dissecting. Oh my god. I did not enjoy having to rewatch this episode and do the notes for it. I kind of thought this episode sucked. Tiffany loves it.
Love this episode.
Man.
We get some good, really good Chief Ross time.
Time, yes. Whether it was quality time is another thing. We can
All time with
discuss.
Chief Ross is quality time.
Well, I think she deserved better than she got, but we can share our views.
Okay.
This was written by Emily Culver. She also wrote 410 Save Yourself, which was the what's that face for?
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan.
Of her writing or of
Just in general.
Fair. Um, yeah, she wrote 410 Save Yourself, which was the COVID drive episode. She was also the story editor for the whole of season 5. Then she was promoted to executive story editor for season 6. And she wrote this episode and also episode 16, Dirty Laundry, which we know was directed by the one and only Danielle Safri. This episode was directed by Michael Medico, who is a bit of a legend. This was his 4th episode. He previously directed season 4, episode 5, Out of Control, which is the one where they rescue the 2 girls from the traffickers when the 2 girls are in the basement. That was a good episode. 4-7, Learning to Fly, which was the one with the cult, where Jack has to go up on
Oh
the
yeah,
roof with the cult leader.
yeah.
5-3-2, Darn Hot, which is a heck of an episode with this heat wave that hits Seattle.
Okay.
And then there's the whole fire hydrant scene at the end, which was a beautiful piece of directing.
Yeah, it was.
And he did one of my favourite episodes, which is 6-11, Could I Leave You? Which was the one where the woman drives into the barn with a deer through a windscreen.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one?
Yep.
Do you remember I raved about that actress at the time?
Yeah.
The one that got impaled with the antler. And I
Yeah,
said,
you
is
did.
she well known in the States? Because I've
And I
never
didn't
seen
know
her
her.
before, but she
Yeah.
was incredible. I know her now.
Okay.
And there's a Michael Medico connection because, as well as Station 19, he's directed a bunch of other really great shows. So he's directed on Grey's Anatomy, he's directed on Atypical, which is a really good show. But he's also directed on one of my other very favourite shows of all times, which is, you know what it is, you know what I'm going to say.
I'm scared to say it and be wrong. The Fosters?
The Fosters.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
directed on The Fosters. And its spin off, Good Trouble, in which Lady Impaled with an Antler is a member of the main cast.
Ah, okay.
Her name's Emma Hunton, and she's got one of the most beautiful singing voices you've ever heard. I think she's done some like West End stuff. But yeah, and so Michael Medico is a great director, and his directing didn't disappoint in this episode. I thought that he did a great job directing this episode.
You just didn't like the episode.
I just didn't like the episode, no. So the kind of blocks that I've split it into, I found it a little bit difficult to split it into blocks even. So I've done my best.
Okay.
I've done Travis and the mayoral race / Vic's idea for girl camp. And then I've got Liberace's playroom as its own block. And I've got Jack as his own block. And then I've got Maya and the incident kind of as a joint block. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. Shall we start with Travis and the mayoral race and then Vic with her girl camp brainwave?
Okay. Let's hit it.
Let's hit it. Okay. So Travis, Theo, and Vic are handing out beers under a sign that says Montgomery for mayor in a bar, trying to drum up support for his campaign, and Travis is not having a fun time. And then the next day, at 19, he complains to Vic that the only time anyone was interested in was when he was buying them beer, and starts doing impressions of the people he spoke to who were bringing up Dixon, which Vic then fines him for, which she now says she's going to do every time he complains about Dixon. And then once Travis has left, Theo and Vic confirm to Andy that the event was a complete and utter disaster. Then in the beanery, Vic says that she was the only woman at the event, and Andy chimes in that she's not surprised because apparently only 7% of Seattle FD is made up of women. And then Ben gets in an argument with Miranda over a work schedule and complains about it to the team. And Vic goes on a rant about how he complained when Miranda didn't want to work, and now he's complaining that she's found her passion again for the job, and because it doesn't look like how he wanted it to. It was all a bit weird and out of place, but in my opinion. But sorry, Blue's digging up her bed. Is that not cozy? It's not cozy. You done? Yeah, you're just gonna. Oh, good girl. You're gonna lie down nicely. Go snoozies. If you could see her little face, the way she's looking at me, she's such an angel.
Before the
Um.
podcast, you guys, she said that she had the face of the devil.
Oh no, that was Willow. Had the devil in her.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
this was Willow. I'm like, now she's an angel.
No, no. Blue's being a little angel. But
Okay,
no,
got it.
Willow's got the devil in her today. She's just troubled today. She's left, so we're marked safe from Willow. She's
Got it.
harassing the other dog somewhere. Um, Everyone then coos over pictures of Prue in her Halloween costume when Beckett leans in behind them wearing a terrifying mask, scaring the crap out of everybody. And it appears that we've now found something that Beckett can take joy in, which is having a legitimate reason to make everyone's life miserable, i.e., Halloween. We are then introduced to Eli, who turns up with a box of cupcakes, which Andy rejects. And he introduces himself as Travis's new campaign manager as soon as Travis hires him.
Which Andy also rejects.
Yes, so Andy then rejects Eli wholesale, saying that Travis already has a campaign manager and she tries to get rid of him whilst he sells himself and his skills to Travis, who does actually seem quite taken by Eli. And it seems like Travis might think he's the man for the job. Eli then turns up again later whilst Karina and Andy are decorating the barn for a Halloween open house for the community. He and Andy flirt, except Andy doesn't realise that she's flirting at this point, I don't think, but it does seem quite flirtatious. And for some bizarre reason, she agrees to him helping she and Karina with the decorating, despite the fact that she's been trying to get rid of him all the livelong day. Then he turns up again, this time accompanied by his niece for the costume party, and he's wearing a load of cardboard boxes, which are supposed to make him look like Big Ben because there was some sort of confusion with his niece being called London. He was supposed to come as London, and I don't know, it's a thing. There's more flirting with Andy. And if I'm honest, I wasn't paying that much attention because I was busy texting you at that point, telling you how bored I was with it all. um, and again, Vic is upset at the costume party thing that none of the girls who turned up were dressed as firefighters. And that's when she has the inspiration for her girls' camp of doing something hands on to have young girls fall in love with the job. Did I miss anything?
No.
Um, I just have literally nothing to say except for thank God for Jay Hayden and Barrett Doss, because without them and their sort of comedic cash exchanges when she was fining him for complaining about Dixon, I think this whole section would have been a wash.
Yeah, I mean, the scenes with Eli and Andy weren't very impressive because Eli's kind of annoying at this point. Um, so you can always count on Jay Hayden and Barrett Doss to kind of bring it in.
Yeah. But it was a bit of a nothing burger, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much context to it that you have to discuss.
No. Shall we move on to Liberace's playroom?
Yes.
Okay. So Sullivan is leaving the station as everyone else is arriving, and he says that he just worked the last shift with Maya, and now he's off for a romantic weekend in Oregon, of all places. Um, we see him on the drive looking very happy with himself, and then he's standing outside of a hotel room door, flowers in hand, which is then opened by Chief Ross wearing a very slinky red number, which leaves not too much to the imagination. They've headed straight to bed in the hotel suite that Sullivan quite aptly calls Liberace's playroom. And they're playing I Spy with a twist because in their version, the chief speaks in a foreign language. Do we know what that is? It's like Farsi or
I thought it
something?
was Korean
Could be. I don't know.
because
Definitely wasn't.
she's half Korean, so I thought it was
She
Korean.
is. It could well be. It's not a like a Latin based language, so it's completely out of my
Yeah.
sphere of knowledge. And then he has to guess what she's saying, I guess, and that's their version of I Spy. But their little loving turns sour when they start talking about the dating app that they've been using to cover up the fact that they're still together. Because the chief reveals that she's gone on a couple of dates to make it seem more believable, which Sullivan is decidedly unhappy about because he hasn't gone on any dates. So he gets out of bed and storms out like a big baby. He then comes back with Chinese food and passive aggressively says that there's enough for the two of them and all the guys that the chief's been dating. And she calls him out on it, saying that he agreed to the terms, but he says that he's sick of living a lie. And the chief says that if they're found out, that it's her integrity that will be called into question and that she's protecting both of their careers. And she also tells them that it's not a lie, it's just an act and it's about privacy, which they're both entitled to. And then she asks him if he's going to talk to her or just eat his feelings like an angry teenager,
Which he does.
which he does. Then they play chess while the chief reminisces about learning the game with her dad on fishing trips, which finally breaks Sullivan, and he agrees to talk. And she says that she went on one date and that she was miserable because she wished it was him that she was with the whole time. And she says they've seen the same things and have the same bruises, and that she's glad he didn't go on any dates because the thought of him with someone else is torture. Then, oh, I'm going to try not to puke. Then they kiss, and she tells him she's about to take his queen, and he tells her that he's about to take his. For the love of God. Um, and then Tiffany's laughing at me. Um, then Sullivan has run them a bubble bath, but he says he doesn't think he can wait another 3 months to spend time with her, and she says to just be with her now. Then he says, "I spy with my little eye," and takes her dressing gown off, and then they both get in the bath. The end.
This is gonna be like a 40, like a 35-minute episode.
Because it was
We're
so
already
badly
like
written.
we're already through the second block on a three. Um, it
You
was
go.
it. I loved these scenes. Um, I agree that the "I'm about to take my" line was cringeworthy. I cringed at that line too. I'm like, come on, let's be a little bit more original. But I just loved seeing Chief Ross.
Look, I think this could have been so good. They are both incredibly sexy humans. I mean, I'm
Uh-huh.
gayer than Christmas, but that is an objectively good looking man. Like,
How is Christmas? Okay, we'll just skip that.
make your Yuletide gay, Tiffany. All of my Yuletides have been gay. All of them. Um, but they are both ridiculously sexy individually. They're ridiculously sexy together. They've got so much chemistry. They are fantastic. But they were given the most shocking dialogue, and it wasn't even consistent. So when they're in bed, she says that she's dated a couple of guys, and then after he's been stroppy with his Chinese food, suddenly it was one guy one time.
One
So they can't
singular
even be
date, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's not even consistent. The "I'm about to take my queen" line is one of the most horrendous lines. I can't believe that more than one person read that on a sheet of paper and decided that that was a good idea. Who the honestly did so, I mean, if I'd written that down and read it back, I'd have just been like, "You, what the hell are you doing?" I really,
You like
really,
refuse to
and
say the
so
line.
yes. So if I'd have been writing it and then I'd read it back to myself, I'd have been like, "That's absurd. Like you can't hand that to another person to read and put your name to it." I would have been so embarrassed for someone else to have read that and known that I'd written it. And if I was Boris Kojo, like knowing that he's like such a joker as well behind the scenes,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
did he say that with a straight face?
And how did she keep a straight face?
Yeah. How is she not sick in his mouth? Like
Yeah.
hearing that. Like, it's just ridiculous. And then I hated the "I spy" before they get in the bath as well. What was that about? It doesn't even make any sense. And
You
it
left out the time travel joke.
oh, that was funny. The time travel joke was funny. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I don't mind
Okay.
the odd dad joke, and that was quite funny. That's all right. You didn't like it. I did quite like
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say that that was Boris's joke. I think
Oh,
that
okay.
sounds. I think that sounds like a Boris joke.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, and that was cheesy as hell when he took her robe off and
Yeah.
they got in the bar. I spy with my little eye, and then take her robe off. Either that is the cheesiest of the cheesiest, like that's the Roquefort of lines, or it's gross. I spy with my little eye, and then get an eyeful. Either way, what the fudge?
Tell us how you really feel about it.
And so much of it's just so disappointing because it could have been so good. I loved that the room was cheesy. That made it funny. Like the fact that these two like really quite serious
Uh-huh.
people end up in that room that was
Yeah.
just like the like this over the top chintzy thing. That was hilarious. That made it funny, but then making the dialogue as cheesy as the room undid all of the juxtaposition and all of the good that that did. And that Mel Dandridge is such a powerhouse actor, and
She
Boris
is.
isn't out acted by her when they're together. He more than keeps up, and so they just deserve better material than that. I wish the material had done them justice.
I will say that um, after watching Greenleaf, I think that Merle Dandridge is often on Station 19, and this isn't because I love that woman to death. Um, she's not pushed to her what her talent is.
She's underserved, isn't she?
She really, really is. I think the only episode that I feel she's been given excellent material to show her talent, which it didn't even push her to Greenleaf level, was the episode where Andy and Vic get called to the man who got racially profiled, and
Yes.
then Vic ends up calling Chief Ross to the scene.
Yeah,
Um,
the second part of the season opener, if that makes sense.
yeah, that
Six
that
B opener,
that
yeah.
episode was very. It was hard to watch because they did such a good job.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, I agree with you. They often don't give Chief Ross um, good material.
There was just so much that she could have that there was nothing to distract from the two of them. I'll tell you what it
Yeah.
put me in mind of. It put me in mind of the episode where Maya and Karina discuss how they're going to have the baby. I think it's 5-7. House is not a home or something like that. This house is
Okay.
not a home. It's something like that. But I think it's 5-7. And you know the one where they start off in bed and they're counting their blessings, and then they end up on the dining table eating food up containers, and
Hmm.
and there's the I want to count my blessings on a little version
Yeah.
of you. Or
Yeah.
it reminded me of that episode of those particular scenes where there's just two people who are deeply in love, sequestered away, like hiding away from the rest of the world, just indulging in each other and just indulging in their love. And Danielle Savory and Stefania Spampinato were given such good material to work with, and it was so beautiful, and there was not like an ounce of cheese in sight. There wasn't a gram of cheese anywhere.
Yeah.
It was absolutely perfect. And Natasha and Sullivan deserved that, and Merle Dandridge and Boris Kojo deserved that, and they didn't get it. All the ingredients were there for
Hmm.
them to have this perfect, gorgeous, intense like time.
Hmm.
But to the writing was just it just felt really amateur. And you know what I'm like? I don't like bashing people's art. I don't. It makes
Hmm.
me feel bad. But I just felt that they were so let down because there was nothing of substance there at all.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people remember a lot of the lines that Maya and Karina had because they were so gorgeous. The only lines that I can remember from this scene were because they were so bad. But I can't
Mm.
really, there was no substance to it. It just,
Hmm.
and they just, for me, they're too good to be underserved like that. It's just how I feel. I just imagine like if Leah Gonzalez had written those scenes instead of Emily Culver, how it might have turned out. But yeah, I just feel bad
And
for them. I just don't. Um, do you have anything else to say about the writing or anything you want to say about it? Or because I've got some questions about their behaviour,
uh-oh.
but did you want to say anything else about the artistic endeavours of those involved?
No, I think you've said enough.
Okay. Um, does Sullivan have a right to be mad that she went on a sham date?
I don't think so.
Me neither. Because I don't see it as being any different to him chatting up Milkmaid 47.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the
What's the
same
difference
thing.
between chatting someone up in the DMs and then having a drink with someone that you don't really have any interest in having a drink with?
No, I mean she went on the date innocently. Nothing happened. I don't think so.
I think it's borderline more problematic to be carrying on conversations with somebody in
Right,
in in the messages than going to a public place and sitting across a table from somebody
right.
knowing full well that you're doing it for show.
Yeah, I agree.
So I disagreed with him. I thought that he was being a right stroppy. Well, yeah, she actually had that right. Bit of a stroppy teenager.
Hmm.
Do you think that either of them is being unreasonable in what they're asking of the other?
No, because she was right. I mean, look what happened when it came out.
Yeah,
I think that he is very selfish in that way.
yeah,
That's one thing I don't like about him in the season finale. Um, and made me not like him for Chief Ross because he treats her like trash, but that's a different episode.
yep.
Um, so yeah, I think he's selfish.
I think I agree because I can see it from his perspective that if you're with somebody, you don't want to have to be going to Oregon every time you want to
Uh-huh.
be with them. And it's rough that you can't hold hands in the street and that you can't, when she turns up at 19, he'll have to, be very professional and be very mindful of what he does. I get that. But I also think you know exactly what you're getting into, mate.
Yep.
That's why he rushed into his marriage with Andy. That's why Vic and Ripley were going to get, or one of the reasons that Vic and Ripley were going to get married was to avoid that. It's not like he's not familiar with this dance, he knows how it goes.
Hmm.
So if you're going to get into it, you know what it means. And so then you don't have any right, in my opinion, to say, I don't want to wait. You got two
Right.
choices. You either wait or you end it,
Yeah.
I think.
No, I agree. 100%.
So
I think he's
I'm
being
Team
selfish.
Chief. Yeah, I'm Team
Team
Chief on this
Ross.
one. Team Ross. Whoop. That was a really unenthusiastic whoop.
Yeah, it was like a little blurb, like a little blurb.
I didn't mean it to be that low key.
Somebody sent me a T-shirt from Pinterest that says, "I call dibs on the fire chief."
I think you called the original dibs.
Yeah, everybody else can back off.
I'm going to call it that you initially called it.
Thank you.
You're quite
You heard it.
welcome.
You've heard it here, folks, at the Station 19 2020 podcast that I call dibs first.
You did. You did. Right. Any more to say about Liberace's Playroom?
No,
Marvelous. Yeah, I'm just overall gutted that it could have been so much more than it was.
I told you I wasn't a fan when you said who wrote it.
Oh yeah, no, you did, yeah. Should we move on to Jack?
Poor Jack.
Poor Jack. Um, Eva's crap shack is getting more and more appealing by the day, isn't it? Um, we see Jack in Eva's bedroom. The hole in the ceiling remains, but I mean, at least the tree's gone now.
Yeah.
Um, the window's boarded up, and on the bedside table, we've got empty beer cans, an empty beer bottle, a sharing bag of cheese puffs with one that's spilt onto the bedside table. There's a bong. This is basically like worse than if you let a load of feral teenagers live alone for a week. It's horrendous. Um, as we pan across to the other side, we've got the beer crate on the bed with two more discarded cans on it, and Jack swilling out of a third one. The other bedside table matches empty cans, empty bottle, beer bottle, pill bottles, and then Jack just collapses onto the bed. We later see him asleep, and Eva comes home and takes two pills out of a baggie in her trouser pocket, takes one herself that she washes down with a beer, and then puts the other one in Jack's mouth, which he doesn't question or spit out, he just takes. And then she lays down to sleep, and he rolls over to hug Eva, and then is confronted with the image of long dead Rigo standing in front of him, asking him what he's done. We then see Jack having taken a shower, pacing, trying to tell himself that Rigo isn't really there, that he's dead, but Rigo is still standing there taunting him. And so Jack ends up waking Eva, trying to get her to leave the house and have breakfast with him, but she has other ideas about how they should be spending their time now that she's awake. They make a post-coital visit to a bar. Jack looks like he needs another shower at this point, and he's visibly rattled. And then Rigo appears again, this time dressed as a pirate, because, you know, Halloween. And he's giving Jack advice on how to woo his, I was going to say his ex wife, but I don't know that you can call her his
Necessarily an
ex wife
ex. Yeah.
since, yeah, because he just died. They didn't break up. Anyway, Eva asks Jack what's up with him, which Rigo then echoes, causing Jack to scream, "Leave me alone." And because Rigo's just a figment of Jack's imagination, Eva reasonably thinks that the "leave me alone" was meant for her. So she says, "Screw Jack," and walks away. Jack tries to explain that he was talking to Rigo, which goes down really well. And Eva tells him that he's sick. Then Jack says he thinks there's something wrong with him, and she confirms that there's a lot wrong with him and then calls him a loser. Jack essentially then has an argument with himself through his imagined version of Rigo, in which Rigo says that Jack's an idiot but not a murderer, and to stop blaming himself for his death, Rigo's death. And he says that Jack's had a bad run of luck, but that he deserves a life and happiness. Jack then goes to the bar and tries to apologize to Eva, who's now talking to a guy dressed as a cowboy, but she's not interested in anything Jack's got to say, calls him a prick, and then says that Rigo was the love of her life and that Jack's disrespected his memory twice. Then Figment Rigo turns up and tells Jack to walk away. Jack says, "Screw you," which cowboy guy obviously thinks is directed at him, so he throws a very mean looking punch directly at Jack's face. Then Jack turns up at the open house, and Andy spots him slumped against a wall in the barn. His hair's looking very Leo Sayer at this point. There's a lot of hair there. And now he's got a black eye, and according to Vic, he stinks of cheap beer. And he says that he knew the open house was happening and that Prue would be there, and he wants to see Prue. Vic seems reluctant, but Andy says that he needs to stand up and pull himself together if he wants to see her. He says that he hasn't had a drink in 4 hours and he's ditched his pain pills and that he doesn't want to scare Prue, but he thinks he can convince her it's a costume. Then Prue sees him and runs to him, and as he hugs Prue, he gets his last glimpse of Rigo, who is now in his firefighter's uniform, and he sort of nods approvingly to Jack before disappearing. Did I hit all the Jack points?
Yes, and there's not much to say.
I mean, I think Set Deck did a great job with the Crap Shack. I
Yeah.
think Hair did a great job because Grey Damon, again, as with Boris Kojo, is an objectively attractive human, but he looks a mess.
Hmm.
Um, I also want to give massive props to Grey Damon, who I think was brilliant throughout.
Yes, he was.
and to Michael Medico, who did some really sweet things with the camera, like those "now you see him, now you don't" swipes when Jack's pacing in the bedroom
Yeah.
and he walks one way, the bed's empty. He walks the other way, Rigo's there in the bed. He does the same thing in the bar. I think Grey Damon and Michael Medico were really good. He did a great
Yeah.
job. But again, it's just there was so much that I didn't that took me out of it. So, for example, and I know that sometimes I do get caught up in the details, but I think if you're going to put details in, make sure that they make sense and make
Yeah.
sure that they fit in with something. So, I mean, I'm fairly naive when it comes to drugs, I will admit. But what pill could they have taken that would send Eva to sleep but would cause Jack to hallucinate?
I don't know, like
Like,
ecstasy or something.
but you don't go to sleep when you take ecstasy.
I've never taken it. I wouldn't know.
Well, it's a party drug. Like, it's what you take. Funnily enough, I was just actually watching a Netflix documentary yesterday about ecstasy. It was about all different kinds of drugs, but yeah. So I have recent knowledge of ecstasy because it was in this documentary I watched yesterday. MDMA. It was invented for therapeutic purposes. It was supposed to be used to
Hmm.
help people, and therapists can be licensed to give therapy using MDMA, using ecstasy in small
Really?
doses. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It's brilliant for PTSD. They use it for veterans, and 2 out of 3 people who have therapy using MDMA for PTSD are cured of it completely. And in the final third, their symptoms are reduced dramatically to the extent that they're very able to live with the PTSD. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, we've gone off track again. Yeah, so I don't think it could have been that. But I just don't understand. Make it clear. Like, it's clearly something that she's purchased or she's been given that is not intended for her use because it was given to her in a baggie, which drug
Right.
dealers give you.
Yeah.
So then, if it's a sedative, then clearly it's a bad one because she's wide awake and wanting sexy time as soon as Jack wakes her up. So it's clearly not a sedative because she's up and ready to go as soon as he's like, Eva, can you see me? Am I dead? But he's hallucinating, but she's not hallucinating. So it's just, again, like, why was it necessary that they both had to take the pill, or like maybe they both should have been hallucinating? Like, why would she take a pill and then go straight to sleep? But he's now seeing Rigo. Like, it just made no sense. It made no sense. The situation was. I like things to have a proper context, and it didn't for me.
Yeah, I mean, I never correlated that it was the pill that made him hallucinate, so
What do you think made him hallucinate?
I don't know. Because at the end, Rigo leaves when Jack does what he's supposed to do.
Exactly. So
So if it
then,
were the
but
pill,
then,
then
yeah, but then what else was making him hallucinate? And then what was the point of the pill? Because he didn't go to sleep, but she did. So then what was the point of the pill? Do you see what I mean? It was
right.
just
Uh-huh.
everything was all over the place. Like there was no point to it. It
I
didn't it
agree.
didn't make sense. So either make sure that people understand because otherwise why was he hallucinating? And if it wasn't because of the pill, why did they bring the pills into it? None of it made sense to me. It was all just a scattergun approach. Like just let's just throw stuff at it. It just made no sense. And then since Rigo is in Jack's head, so Jack's actually talking to himself, does that mean that Jack is finally forgiving himself for Rigo's death and that he is coming to the conclusion that he's worthy of love?
Maybe. Maybe that's him moving on finally.
Yeah, it'll be good to see what happens next because I genuinely don't remember. So it'll be good to see if that bears out and that if he's kind of okay next week.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, would you have let Jack in that state see Prue?
I think Andy knew that he needed it. for his
What
mental
about
health.
what Prue needs? Because she's a little girl and he was like stinking of beer, black eye.
But it didn't affect her. We find out in the next episode
Mm,
because I
I don't
already
think
watched it.
I don't think I'd have let him anywhere near my kid, like in that state. But
I mean, like if my brother came like that, and I knew it would help him get out of the dark place that he was in, I don't know. It, I would consider it
mm,
because backstory, my brother was an alcoholic for 10 years and he became sober 3 months before my first son was born because he wanted to be a good uncle, which is depressing me now because he doesn't talk to me anymore. So I don't know. It meant a lot that he made that change because of my son, if that makes sense.
yeah,
And my dad did the same thing. My dad is an alcoholic, and I didn't grow up with a dad. I just started talking to my dad within the last 4 or 5 years. And when I called him when Abraham was turning 1, I said, "You have a grandson. Do you want to meet him?" And he said, "Yes." It's okay, but you can't be drunk around him. Like I won't accept that.
mm,
So I created that barrier right away. Um, or that boundary, sorry.
yeah,
But it's just when you care for the person like Jack, Andy cares deeply for Jack. We know that. Um, it just really makes you consider it. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's difficult because I don't even have kids, but I would probably, if it was me, I think I would have said to him, "You still stink, and you need to run a brush through your hair." And I don't want
Maybe
you.
go
I
upstairs
don't.
and take a shower or something.
Yeah, like I don't want you scaring her. You need to. Yeah, I mean, like there are showers and facilities there. Go change. And like just and again with the writing, I hated the line. I can convince her it's a costume. It's so stupid. Who would say that? Who would say that? Like, oh,
Yeah.
your costume that comes with authentic beer stench. What's he going to tell her he'd come as? Uncle Jack, I'm Megan Rapinoe. What are you? Oh, I'm the physical manifestation of despair, Prue. That's what I am. I just thought it was a
she's
just
gotta
a
she's gotta learn sometime.
I just thought it was a just a dumb line. I think I can convince her it's a costume. Come on.
Yeah.
What costume? See, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. What? Like, does that make sense to you?
No, but he wasn't in a place to make sense.
So go upstairs, take a shower, maybe leave it more than 4 hours, like,
Yeah.
before, and yeah, and maybe see the child when you are able to make sense. Oh well, again, I just think Michael Medicote and Grey Damon did a great job with the material they were given. I just wasn't stoked with the material they were given.
I think that's fair. I do think Gray Damon did a very good job with his material that he was
Yeah,
given.
he was really good. He was
Um,
very good.
but yeah, it could have been better. The the lines lacked substance.
Yeah, I think that
What
was it
you
all the way
this
through. Yeah.
I think this episode lacked something to connect to.
Yes, it all just felt half-assed.
I liked it obviously because I love Merle Dandridge and she got quite a bit of screen time in this episode, which is why I liked it.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean that it was good screen time, not necessarily, but I just enjoy seeing her anytime she's
yeah,
on screen.
yeah.
But this episode lacked something that, like, usually each episode has something that kind of gut punches you or that you can grasp onto or hold on to or be like, oh my God, be blown away by. Um, and this episode just didn't have that. It was kind of just a mediocre
It was
line of
so flat. It was just,
material. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I've put Maya and the incident together because it all sort of fed into each other. So
Hmm.
we see Maya and Sullivan on shift during the opening montage, and Karina alone in their bed, wide awake and angry. I love that she shoots Maya's side of the bed a filthy look, like it's the bed's fault that Maya's not there. Then she picks up Maya's pillow and launches it at a jack o' lantern.
Which I heard
Actually,
she had to film a couple times.
whether it's the first time or the fourth time, good arm is what I say. And then at the next morning's lineup, under the guise of a Halloween prank, Beckett finds a semi-legitimate way to bully Maya even more because he set up a bucket of red goo, which he then tips over her head. Um, Karina is at the station to help out with the open house, and she literally bumps into Maya as she's leaving the shower block, having tried to wash the food colouring goo out of her hair. And as Maya gets dressed, Karina smells something reminiscent of old cheese. Oh, it's the script. It's the script. That's what you can smell, Karina. It's the script. Which Maya says is her because Beckett just soaked her last clean outfit. And Karina laughs about it, but she says if she doesn't laugh, she'll cry because Maya's run out of clean clothes in her bid to avoid coming home and facing Karina. With everyone but Andy out on a call, Karina does Maya's laundry, saying she's trying to help from a distance. And Andy says that as the person that has to sit next to Maya in the rigs, she's grateful. um, and Karina confides in Andy that she misses her wife and asks Andy if Maya's talking to her about anything. And Andy says that this is Maya's way of doing things, just the way she was raised is to push through. And the more pain she's in, the harder she pushes. And she tells Karina to basically let Maya work things out on her own, but to know that Maya loves her. Theo and Maya are out on the aid car, and Theo has some very astute commentary about Beckett, which is Beckett's a dick, huh? And Maya says that Beckett's making it difficult for her to actually be a firefighter. So Theo asks if that's why she's taking all the overtime to prove Beckett wrong. But she explains that it's just because she likes firefighting and working overtime is the only way she's actually able to do that. Theo says he's worried that Maya's stretched too thin and will burn out like he did, but Maya tells him that he's wrong and it isn't some deep-seated trauma for them to bond over. They were both good and respected captains, but he asked to be demoted and she was removed from her post because she offended the wrong person. And that same person promoted Beckett, who's got a tiny and fragile ego, and therefore has relegated her to desk duty and driving the aid car instead of being the excellent firefighter that she is.
So is she bashing Chief Ross there?
No, she's bashing the handlebar mustache guy.
Because she's like, who has the same blah 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 as the person who promoted him. So is she bashing Chief Ross?
No, no, I think she's talking about the last chief, the one that demoted her.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to be like, okay, Maya, hold on.
No, I think it's the handlebar mustache guy.
Oh, the guy that she was insubordinate to.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. Keep
that's
going.
what I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Theo Meyer's call is to some Halloween fair, and an employee has been hit in the face by a customer he scared in the haunted corn maze. And as Maya and Theo tend to him, two idiots fighting with staff switch them out for tiki torches, and then the top of one gets improbably launched into the corn maze, setting it alight. So then the rest of 19 have to turn up to put out the fire, and there's a panicked woman there saying her husband and son, who are dressed as a mailman and a mailbox, are trapped inside. Maya decides that it's a great idea to climb up the ladder on a Ferris wheel with zero safety equipment to get a view of the maze, and she helps Vic and Travis navigate a bit. But then an explosion happens and sort of shocks and rocks her, and she's toppled, and she just about manages to grab hold of the ladder to avoid falling. Then she sees the kid and the dad in the maze and decides to hot foot it in there with a fire extinguisher to rescue them. Only she manages to jam her ankle when she hops off a platform. And then she defies Beckett's orders by going in after the dad and the son instead of being on triage, as she was told to do. So she locates the dad and son, and then the team try and find her and the victims to help them all out. But obviously, it's quite tricky with it being a maze. So Maya's stuck in there with the dad and son. 19 are stuck trying to find them, and it all seems a bit hopeless. So Maya has to take off her jacket, put it around the father and son to protect them from the fire, and try and extinguish the flames around them. But her extinguisher runs out of juice, so she's left just trying to literally stamp out the tiny fires that are popping up around them before pulling the dad and the son as close to safety as she can manage and covering them with her own body until help arrives and the rest of 19 get them all out. Then back at 19, Maya limps into the barn and refuses to let Ben look at her ankle. And then Theo calls her out on her behaviour, telling her that she could have stayed on the ladder and directed him to the dad and the boy, as she had done with Travis and Vic, but that she was intent on playing the hero. And then he starts on Beckett, telling him that he's so focused on being the big man that he's being a terrible leader. And he alerts Beckett to the fact that Maya's worked 5 shifts in a row to prove that she deserves a spot on the team. Maya interjects to say that she's fine, but Theo tells her that her wife might be pregnant right now, that she could be somebody's mother, and she's out there pulling cowboy crap. And then he turns back to Beckett and says prophetically that people die a lot faster in this job when captains are wrapped up in their egos, and that if Beckett gets someone killed, he won't ever forgive himself. Then Beckett orders Maya off shift and tells her if he finds out that she's worked another one before her next regularly scheduled shift, he's going to send her back to the academy. Then Maya goes into the kitchen to find her wife stuffing her face with sweets. That was the point at which I decided I needed sweets.
When you messaged me that you had to get up to get candy.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I want sweets. I went and got some squashies. That was the nearest I had to what she had. But it looked good. Honestly, I got up 5 times during this episode. It took me all day to do the notes for this episode. I watched 2 episodes of The West Wing in between,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, because I was watching it and doing the notes, and I thought I must be halfway. I must be halfway. This is a good time to pause. I must be halfway. And I paused it, and it was 12 minutes. I'd done 12 minutes.
Wow.
I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not even a third of the way through." So I watched an episode of The West Wing as a palate cleanser and then went back to it and then watched another episode of The West Wing. Then I fed the dogs, then I fed myself. Then I went and got some sweets because I needed sugar to get through it. Honestly, I've never had such a rough time. It was like swimming through treacle trying to get through this.
Was it rough for
Um,
you the first time you watched it? Do you remember?
yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I thought it
Okay.
was. I was just a bit like, like I felt like normally afterwards there's something that sticks with me,
Yeah.
and I've got some sort of lingering emotion. But it was just ennui that I was left with after this episode. I just felt like like there's so much build up. I look forward to it so much, and then there was no payoff at the end. I was just like, oh.
Okay.
But I didn't dislike it as much as I did this time round. But I really kind of actively disliked it this time round. Um, Now I want squashies again. Right, so Karina's Karina's stuffing her
I have
face
no
with
idea. I have no
sweets.
idea what those are.
Oh, they're really good. We have this sweet brand over here called Swizzle. They've been around
Uh-huh.
since forever. My mum used to have Swizzle sweets when she was a kid in the 50s and 60s, and they're still around. And they do like lollies. We call them lollies. I don't. It's like candy on a stick.
Lollipops or suckers.
Yeah, like a lollipop. They do like that. They do those, and they do them that are like really hard, like compacted sherbet almost, like really compacted
Hmm.
hard sherbet. They like scratch the roof of your mouth and like scratch your tongue. You feel like you've been eating sand after you finish with it. If your mouth isn't sore after you've eaten it, you haven't had the full swizzle stick experience. But they also do like really chewy lollies, which if you've got a loose tooth, that's a guaranteed way to dislodge it from your mouth completely. But then a couple of years ago, they started doing like chewy versions of them. I'm literally salivating. They started doing chewy, like gummy versions. You know, like milk. They're gummy, but they're also like the milk gummies. They're not like the really fruity gummies like gummy bears. They're like
They're more creamy.
yeah, like a more creamy texture to them. Um, Chewy versions of the drumstick lolly that will rip your teeth out. And they call them squashies because they're squashy. You can squeeze them and squash them. And I had the sour version, which are cherry and apple.
I'll have to try them when I come.
I'll bring some over in April.
Oh, okay. And then you can try Laffy Taffy.
Yes.
I'm gonna buy a bag when you come.
Awesome. I will make sure that the travel insurance I buy covers me for dental. Um, squashies. Karina, that's where we were. It's hard.
Right
So
here.
she's eating sweets, and again, I love Stefania so much, and she just had like oh, she was just given such to work with. She thinks she might be pregnant because she's been eating all day, which is obviously a really scientific way for an OBGYN to diagnose whether or not they think they might be pregnant, is that
Yeah.
there's candy, lots and lots of it available, and she's putting it in her mouth. I can see why she might lead that might lead her to think she's pregnant. Anyway, she thinks she might be pregnant because eating candy is a good sign of that. And Maya says that she's tired and
You might be
thirsty.
pregnant now.
Exactly. If I'm pregnant, I'm worth so much money.
You are.
Medical miracle. Catholic
Because
Church would
God
be all
knows
over
how that
me.
happened. They
Ex-
would be like the
well,
next
God would
Mary.
know how it happened because that sucker would have done it.
Then you'd be a believer of something. Of
Of
something.
something, yeah. Um, Maya says that she's tired and thirsty. She's going to take a shower and then she's going to come home because working as much as she has is dangerous to the team. Karina agrees that Maya should come home and sleep in their bed with her, and Maya says that's exactly what she needs. And she holds Karina's face and gives her a kiss before leaving, but Karina does not seem convinced that Maya actually believes that this is what she needs. And then we see Maya sitting in the shower, fully clothed, and she's struggling to get her boot off her injured ankle. And then she just sobs as the water beats down on her. And that's how we leave Maya.
Which Danielle killed that scene. You have to give props to Danielle Savory for that
Oh
scene.
my god, nothing but. And actually, the exchange between she and Karina, again, what they did with it, and probably under Michael Medico's direction, is brilliant because honestly, you didn't really need dialogue.
No, I mean the chemistry between Danielle and Stefania is undeniable. You can't not see it. Um, and so I hate to say it, but you could give them probably anything and they would make it something. You know what I
You
mean?
could give
Because
them a Bert and Ernie scene from Sesame Street, and
they
they
would,
would turn it into
yeah,
sheer gold. Mind you, Bert and Ernie
yeah.
are pure gold. That was a bad example because Bert and Ernie are gold anyway.
But they're just Stefania and that's why there's so many reasons this show cannot end. And Marina, both in our Marina gear, is one of the reasons for so many reasons, not just the representation, right? That's one of the biggest reasons is the
Yeah.
representation. But you're not going to find their chemistry again. You're not.
Mm-mm. Nope.
And to just lose that is like I'm getting goosebumps talking about their chemistry. And it's undeniable. And even when you meet them in person and see them together, you see that it's so real because they
The
act.
natural chemistry, yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
insane.
But Danielle was absolutely superb. And in that scene, when Karina says, I think I might be pregnant, and the way she whips her head around, what? Like the
Yeah,
terror on her
what?
face.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, please, God, no. And then when she's trying to convince herself that going home and being with her wife in their bed is the thing that she needs, and
yeah,
she's trying
yeah,
to hold back the tears and saying, yeah, no, that is exactly what I need. And then the look on Karina's face when Maya leaves, like, I wish it was what you needed, but I know it's not.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
that was great, but the rest of it was a fucking shocker. the, the idiot victims again. I know that technically the victims weren't the idiots because the people that started the fire weren't the victims. They didn't end up getting trapped. But who has a fight with tiki torches?
I know, right next to a big corn maze.
And which health and safety executive said it was a good idea to have tiki torches near a corn maze? And then for just the tip of one of the torches to get launched into the maze, like it was just a litany of stupid.
What had to happen somehow?
But wasn't there a more probable way of starting the fire? It was just really unrealistic and silly. And again, it just takes me out of it because if you can say 4 times in one scene, that would never happen. Like, it's just by the time you get to it, it's like, come on. It was just dumb.
It was Gandalf and Saruman
I don't know
from
who
Lord of the
either of those
Rings.
people are.
From Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah, Gandalf, I know. Ian McKellen.
Saruman is the yes, Sir Ian
Sir
McKellen.
Ian. Sir Ian. How dare I?
Yes.
But yeah, it was just dumb. Maya on the ladder as well, that bothered me because she had just finished giving Theo a speech about what an excellent firefighter she is. And then this is the exact opposite of excellent firefighting. To do something really dumb and put yourself in danger.
She's not she's not herself.
That was the only thing that I could come up with, is that maybe because she's been working 120 hours or something, that she wasn't thinking clearly. But it still didn't quite fit with the pattern of behavior for me because she's being unintentionally reckless in working too many shifts and over exercising. That's unintentional recklessness. And then later working with a bad ankle and not saying anything, just powering through, that's unintentional recklessness. And
Mm-hmm.
it matches with what Andy was saying about the way she is, just powering through things. But doing something so completely reckless seems very out of character, and it didn't, like, but that was the benefit of the doubt that I gave, was that she's been working for 120 hours, but it
Yeah.
still felt that it wasn't in line with what she'd just been saying to Theo, like, I am an excellent
Right.
firefighter and this is how I can be a firefighter. That wasn't being a firefighter, that was being a big fat dummy. And that's not how you prove yourself, is by putting yourself in danger twice, like climbing
Mm-hmm.
up a ladder and then running into the fire with an extinguisher. So again, it just didn't. I understand the running into the fire thing, but I understood that. I didn't understand the ladder necessarily,
Okay.
was my take.
That's fair.
I thought Theo's outburst was the best part of the whole episode, probably, aside from Maya's breakdown at the end.
I was gonna say I think that's my favorite scene, this Maya's
Yeah,
breakdown at the end.
but I thought that Theo's outburst was brilliant. And apart from the abortion episode, I don't feel like they give him much to do. I don't feel they give Carlos
Mm.
Miranda much to do,
Mm-hmm.
except being like a sweet, funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated seeing him given something meaningful to do. And I mean that for both of them, for Theo and for Carlos, like actually
Yeah.
having a meaningful role to play in the whole thing, other than just like, yeah, being a cuddly puppy dog. It was good to see something there.
Yeah.
And actually, the incident itself, once it got started, was one of the better ones. If you ignore how the fire started in the maze, I loved the idea of literally being stuck in a maze of fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of perfect and like super dramatic. You know, you can't find your way out, firefighters can't find
Mm-hmm.
their way in. Like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how Michael Medico directed Maya in the maze with the father and son, all the slow mo stuff, her
Mm-hmm.
taking off her jacket, dragging them both across the ground, shielding their bodies with hers, and it was really well acted too. you saw the dad like screaming in pain, and
Yeah,
the strain on Maya's face as she pulls them. I love Danielle Savory's physicality. She's so impressive to me.
she really is. Yeah, she really, really is.
I mean, there's like method acting and then there's method acting. Like, I swear down, Danielle Savory, if she tipped up at a fire station and took the physical aptitude test, if she didn't pass it, she'd be damn close. I reckon she could do it. She is so strong.
Jaina passed it.
Did she? Oh, then Daniela kill
Jaina,
it.
Jaina took it before the show started because she wanted to know what it took to be a firefighter. And she took the test and she passed it.
Daniela'd smash it then because she is a fine physical specimen.
Yeah, I mean, did you see her arms when she was putting the fire out?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like she's so and the way that she later on, the way that she picked Stefania up off the floor in that episode when
Hmm.
they got back together wholesale, she's just so physically strong.
Yeah, she just picks her up like she's nothing.
Yeah, she must have such strong legs. I just love that about her. Like just that she throws herself into it wholeheartedly. It wouldn't
She's
it wouldn't just
definitely
be
a.
okay.
Sorry, no, I was gonna say she's definitely a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's not enough to like act like a firefighter. It's like, no, what does it take to be a fire? Let me be a. I'll do exactly what they do. Like I'm going to get myself in that
Hmm.
sort of shape, and um, it's not enough that it looks realistic. It's got to be realistic. Like she's just so impressive to me. So again, the scene itself, the concept of the scene, and then the way that it was directed and the way that it was acted was fantastic. It's just a shame about the gubbins that went on around it. And then obviously Danielle had to go and break her hearts in the beanery with Karina and in the shower, which we already talked about. Um, but I just think it's so sad that she so badly wants for the only thing she needs to be to go home and sleep next to her wife, but she just knows it isn't. And I think she
Yeah,
just must feel so completely lost and adrift in that moment. And like Karina should be her anchor, and she isn't. And I don't think she knows how to change that. And I think that's what the tears are about.
I think Karina is her anchor, but she's so brainwashed into this eyes forward that she knows if she gets close to Karina, it will take that away, and then she'll feel like she's losing because Karina undoes Maya, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so if she lets Karina in, then she can't do what she's doing, which is the only thing she knows to do.
See, I think that that's why because the only thing that she knows how to do has just been taken from her. And she can't get
Hmm.
that comfort from Karina because she already feels like she's losing. She already feels like everything's out of control for her. And she's been like bullied by a man her whole life, her father.
Right, right.
And the way that I think it's so multidimensional because I think that the way that she could please him and stop that was to be this physical specimen and to run and to work harder and just to be this constant workhorse. That was how she stopped the bullying from her dad. All the while she was doing that, she wasn't being bullied, but that's not working with Beckett. So I don't think she knows how to make that stop. And then also the running and having that control over her body is also like an escape. The running is also an escape, and then that transfers over to working. So working has now become her escape. But now
Yeah.
that's been taken from her because Beckett's ordered her to be off shift. But I think that also, and I'm kind of extrapolating a bit, but um, you find this with people who have been abused and they haven't had control over their lives, over their bodies. Like her father controlled what she put in her mouth. He controlled when she slept. He controlled all of those things. And so you find when people have been controlled like that, they will find something with their body that they can control. So, for example, an eating disorder might become
Yeah. Right.
the thing. I can't control all these things that you're doing to me. I can't control the things that have happened to me. And I haven't necessarily had control over my body, but I will now. I'm going to control exactly what goes into it. I'm going to control, and so it becomes like this control mechanism. And I think for her, that's part of what the running is. Like I say, I'm just kind of extrapolating a bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is part of her control, that she's lost control of a lot of things, but she can control putting one foot in front of the other and running, and she can control, her work schedule and all the stuff, and it's all been taken from her. So even the things that she uses to cope and the things that she uses to that she feels she has control over have now been removed from her. And so now what's she going to do? And that's kind of what I meant by like Karina's not her anchor, because Karina can't make it better because Karina isn't something she can control. And Karina's like an external thing, whereas the way that, like, her running and her work and stuff makes her feel as like an internal thing. I don't know if I'm
Hmm.
explaining myself very well, like what I mean. But
No, I get what you're saying.
yeah, so that's what I mean by like Karina's not her anchor, is like Karina's not the thing that she needs to tie herself to right at this moment. The only thing that she wants to tie herself to at this moment is her work, and it's just been taken from her. So now she doesn't know, I think, what to do. And as much as she would love for being at home in bed with Karina to be the thing that fixes her, I think she knows full well it's not. The thing that will fix her in her head, will fix her, has just been
Yeah.
taken away from her. So, like, now
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. No, I agree with that.
Bless her.
Yeah. This season was tough for Maya, for sure.
Tough for me.
This is this is the season. I wish I would have, when I interviewed Danielle on my mental health page, I wish it would have been after a couple more episodes
Yeah,
because it really gets into the mental health. Because we had only seen the roof scene at that point, so
yeah.
we're both doing the same thing with our arms.
I know. It's like a comfort thing.
It is. Um, but no, I get what you're saying. I think she very much longs for Karina in deep down inside, but she knows that she's messed up and she knows that she needs help and she's just so lost. And that's why it's so hard to see.
Yeah. Um, any more on Maya slash the incident?
No, just good job, Daniel Savory.
Yeah. Um, so overall, for me, Danielle and Gray both did brilliant work in this episode. The chief featured heavily, which is, great, but I just wish that she'd had dialogue that was worthy of her. Um, there was actually a decent incident for me. Massive props for me to Michael Medico and the VFX department. And I so badly wanted to love this episode, but there was just too much dialogue that was just horrible and too many holes in things for me. Oh, that was the other thing that annoyed me. Just this one last thing, and then I promise I'll be done. Ben said that there was going to be a prank war. There was a total of 3 pranks, and one of them wasn't even directed at him. That's not a war, it's a retaliatory strike.
That's
If someone does something to you and then you do something back, a war that is not. It's a retaliatory
true.
strike. They promised a prank war did not come. Just saying.
No.
So, what's your overall view of this one?
I just really, 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 really enjoyed getting to see
Merle
Merle
Dandridge in
Dandridge
the
on
slinky
screen.
nightwear.
I didn't mention that. at all. I behaved myself.
Mm.
Did I not behave myself
No,
this?
you did behave.
Did I not?
You comported yourself very well, actually. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
I'm not saying a lot of things.
I'm just having a look. Hold on. I forgot to mention anywhere other than in the episode that there was a poll about whether or not your love for Mel was
Oh, you mean
pure.
if my love was pure? Okay, let me
Yeah.
pull it up. Let's see what it's at because it's still up. I was winning for a minute,
Oh,
and
here we
then
go.
I
Um,
said, and then it stopped.
okay, so is Tiffany's love for Merle Dandridge pure? We've got 36% saying yes. We've got 18% saying no. And then I went for a third option, which is hell no. And 45.5% of people say hell no. With
There's 1 day and 12 hours left. And does it count that I voted?
Maths is hard for me today. 8 and 5 is 13. So 63% of people, more than 63% of people, say that your love for Mel is not pure, Tiffany. So I'm really.
There's a day and a half left. There's a day and a half left.
I don't think you're going to pull it back, mate.
You never know.
You never know. You're going to sign up for multiple email accounts and just keep clicking yes.
Yeah, just keep voting.
Yeah. Um, did you see any themes in this one?
Um, Sorry, I was looking at the poll. Any themes in this? Good God, there was just no context in this episode.
I mean, don't strain your brain on it because I couldn't find any.
Maybe like not being able to have
Good lines to
what
say?
you want.
Oh, sorry.
That's probably it.
Yeah, I didn't find one common thread to pull on, and I tried really hard because you know that I like to have
Yeah.
answers to these things, and I just couldn't find
Yeah,
anything.
you don't like to pass.
No. What were your takeaways from this one? What are you looking forward to in future episodes?
Seeing more of Danielle Savory and Stefani Spampinato act together
Mm-hmm.
because I know there's difficult scenes to come and they absolutely destroy them.
And destroy us in.
Yes, exactly. Because they bring these characters to life so much.
Yeah.
And just seeing or Maya's journey and how Danielle brings Maya to life in that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm answering these as though I've never seen the episodes.
That's good.
Seeing what happens with Eli. Is he going to end up being the campaign manager or not? And what happens between him and Andy?
I'd forgotten that Eli was even in this episode until you said that.
Yeah,
I'd completely
he
like
was Big
wiped
Ben.
him. I know, and I mean, obviously, I just talked about it like an hour ago, but it it had completely gone from my memory. I was like, oh yeah, Eli was in it a
and
lot.
seeing the girls camp.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have to say that I am coming at this quite fresh because I didn't do a rewatch of season 6. So I am coming at it fresh. I don't really remember details of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember certain things crystal clear, like with great clarity, but then other things I don't really remember a great deal about. So I'm looking forward to seeing if this was Jack's rock bottom and if now is kind of he's going to be on an upward trajectory or if he'll slide back and what a bit of R&R will do for Maya, and if Beckett's attitude will now change since Theo's reading of the riot act to him.
You know, I have such a hard time with with Beckett being mean to Maya for blackmailing the chief because he literally threatened Sullivan
Did exactly
to
the same
blackmail
thing.
them.
Did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have such a hard time with Beckett because of that.
Well, I think what you're missing though is that he's a heterosexual white man, and so he's effectively allowed to do whatever he wants and still exist in the world and succeed. Whereas Maya's a queer woman, so she must suffer for purely existing.
It's not fair.
Nope. But
That's all I'm saying is it's not
it's
fair.
not fair. Who had the best growth for you in this episode?
You need to put music to your head, Bob, when you edit.
Do do
Um,
do 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 do.
Nobody had grow up. Theo.
That's exactly what I said. I said Theo.
Okay, so we're on the same
We're on the
page
same page. It was Theo
because of
for me.
because he stood up to Beckett.
Yes, I just thought he was brilliant. He was really good.
Yep,
Best scene
yep.
for you?
Liberace's playroom. No, um, the best scene was actually Danielle in the shower at the end. Um, just because she destroyed that scene.
Yeah. Um, I feel like I genuinely could say Danielle in every episode this season. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with, because that was incredible. That was absolutely superb acting. But just to mix it up, I'm gonna go with Theo in the barn.
Okay.
Um, I thought that Carlos Miranda did a really good job.
He did.
So I'm gonna go with Theo in the barn. Best lines or best
Okay.
dialogue for you? I know we're clutching at straws, we're grasping on this one.
Best dialogue. I'm gonna say Vasquez talking to Jack at the table, telling him that he deserves happiness and love.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna pick that.
Okay. I'm going to go with one word. And I realised afterwards, and I swear I didn't do this on purpose just to be mean, but I realised afterwards that it is a word which was not on the page.
Okay.
And it was when it was the captain that Theo added at the end of his speech to Beckett, telling him what a crap individual he is. And then at the end, he goes,
Oh, okay.
Captain, and walks out. And I think that
Yeah.
the whole, like, the speech would have been 30% worse if it had not had the cap. I think the captain made it, and just everything about it,
Yeah.
the fact that he said it, the tone of voice, the way he like flicked his chin up in an ironic way and walked out just like the captain at the end of his speech. And then I remembered after I'd written that down, oh shoot, that wasn't in the script. He actually ad-libbed that.
Oh,
And
he ad libbed.
he
Oh, did
ad-libbed
he?
it. He ad-libbed it. That wasn't on the page. That was
That's pretty
that was
impressive.
Carlos Miranda's like captain. And they were like, oh, we're leaving that in. That was tremendous. We're leaving that in. And
That's pretty impressive.
yeah. And that was my favourite bit of dialogue.
That's awesome.
Who was your MVP?
Just because I know I'm gonna pick Danielle a lot, um, I'm gonna pick Carlos Miranda.
Okay. I did go for Danielle. I couldn't not. With the kitchen scene and then the meltdown in the shower, I couldn't not. So,
I know, but I just know I'm gonna pick her a
oh,
lot.
same.
So
That's why I didn't pick that as my favourite scene. I think that's absolutely fair. Most gifable moment for you?
it's got to be the corny. I'm about to take mine.
Fucking
Scene.
hell. You had to do it for
It's got
me.
to be that. What about you?
I went for it's football. I actually did make a gif of it's
Oh, it's
football
football.
when Karina told Travis it
Yeah.
was football. And then when she's
The first time or the second
the
time?
the well, both. But I think the second time's good when she kind of does the upturned hats. It's football. Like,
Yeah, she's
yeah,
like,
like it
yeah,
is
yeah.
and she's absolutely right, it is football.
She is right.
Cheers, football. Right, thank Christ that's over. Next week, 6:05, pick up the pieces. They need to after this. The crew works against the clock to rescue a group of employees trapped inside of a battery recycling plant, and Karina plans a special sorpresa. In an attempt to
Surprise.
reconnect with Maya, Travis gets caught in the crosshairs of dirty politics. I remember this episode now. It's the one where the lighting department plays a blinder.
We get some Merle Dandridge in this scene too, in this episode.
What do we get with the chief in this one?
She's on the radio, and she's the one that pieces together that
Oh,
Rafi
the guy on the roof
is.
works at the battery
Mhm,
factory.
mhm.
Yeah, got you.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I do. I recall this one now. Okay. I remember enjoying this one more.
Yes, it was definitely more enjoyable. More context, more substance.
Good.
The incident was good. It's a good episode.
So I'll need fewer episodes of The West Wing and not as many squashies.
No, you might want snacks because it's good.
Snacks. Okay. Right. I'll bear that in mind. All right. Well, I will go and get watching then.
Okay.
It was
Have fun.
nice to see your face.
Nice to see your face.
And hopefully I'll see it again soon and we'll have more fun things to
Because
talk
that's all
about.
we see is like.
Yeah, like chest up. I'll be amazed when I meet you that you've got legs.
Right. I do, I promise.
All right, well, I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.